When God opened up your spiritual eyes, you are going to see things that will blow your mind. A few months ago, last year, the Spirit of the Lord opened up my eyes and showed me a dream. In this dream, I was taken to the country of Nigeria. I've never been there before, but would love to go one of these days, And I was taken back into a small town. Now, if you've been to Africa or to developing nations, you know that they have, during the rainy season, right, there's mud on the road and the roads are a little rough when you go on the back roads. And this was around the time that I was there. I noticed that I was with this man. He had on all white, a white shirt, short sleeve shirt, had on short dark hair, and he was very fit. He was probably like this height, maybe 5'4", 5'5" or so. He wasn't that tall, maybe a little bit taller, but he was definitely much shorter than me. So this man he wanted to take me somewhere. I didn't know where we're going, but he said he wanted to take me somewhere. So I remember us walking, and I saw cars that were passing. It was so clear, so vivid. And the man's white was very bright, and he was so friendly to me, so friendly and nice, and he had on this warm smile on his face. So as we walked, I remember us hopping over a little, pothole, like a little water puddle, whatever, to kind of walk to where we're going. So we finally walked the streets. The ground was dirt ground, and we walked, and we got to this building. When we got to this building, I was like, wait a minute. You don't expect to find this type of a building in a place like this. You could imagine going to a village and then you see like a high-end building. So when we got there, we walked inside. And when we walked inside, this man that I was there with, he sat next to me, but he sat like a little bit on the side. When I looked, there were people in that in this particular area that we're in. It's like a little, like a meeting room, almost like a training room. But they were seated on normal chairs. And they were dressed as businessmen and women. And they had on like their notepads. I noticed this one lady, she had on a long black hair, like those Brazilian hairs. And, but she was focused. And she had, her notepad, and she was taking notes. And I saw a few other people. They were, so focused. They didn't see me. Or if they did, they didn't say anything to me. But none of them looked at me. The gentleman that I was with, he was smiling. The whole time he just had this smile on his face. He sat back there. He was the only person that had on all white. Again, he had on like short sleeves. His clothes were short sleeves, button up white shirt, white pants. He sat there. And I think there were probably, I don't know, but just an estimate, I think maybe 10 or 12 or so people that were sitting in this particular office or classroom setting. And there was a man on the board. There was this whiteboard, like where you can be able to, like the dry erase boards that you can write and wipe. And he was teaching them things. He was telling them things. His back was turned to, he was like this, his back was turned towards me, but I can see from the side, the features they had. He was, a little chubby man. From what I can tell, I'm not sure his height, but I would guess to say maybe 5'9" or so, 5'10", around there, maybe a little taller. But he was probably around my height or so, give or take. And when he turned around, I recognized who that was. And I'm like, wait, this is Archbishop Benson Idahosa. Now, prior to that dream, and God is my witness, I didn't know much about this man. I heard some things about him before. I think before, just when I had that dream, I had recently just started hearing things just on YouTube, when I'm browsing through and, clips come up. And they said it was this powerful man of God in Nigeria. He did some great things. But I didn't really know too much details about him. So I saw him, and he was dressed like a businessman, had on a black tie, had on a white shirt, and he was teaching them. And what he was teaching them was, I heard just a little bit of the conversation. It was almost like etiquette, like how do you behave and what to do when things come up in certain situations. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, what's going on here? And he was he was very active in the way that he taught. He was really engaged. You know, it wasn't until after I had that dream that I went on YouTube again to find out who was this man called Idahosa, and I began to watch more clips, and then it clicked, like, wow, you know, he really was a great man of God from what I've heard and what people say. And he was teaching them, but he was so focused, and he never looked to me. He looked at my way. He never said anything. All the people that were sitting there never said anything to me. They didn't even notice that I was in there. It was almost like I was getting a glimpse into a training session. And after I had that dream, I was like, man, what does that mean? But anyway, before the dream ended, the gentleman that I was with came up to me. He said something. I don't remember, because, you know, I recorded the dream, so I would have to go back to listen to the whole thing, because anytime that I have dreams, I have my phone and I record everything on there so I can remember, like, right away. So anyway, the gentleman, we stood up, we shook hands, and some other stuff transpired, and then the dream ended. And I realized something, and I believe that there are angels that God will send to earth in a specific country for a specific region. But you got to understand that not all angels, they don't know everything. They're not omniscient. So wherever God sends them, they need to be trained to understand that culture. They need to understand that language. They need to understand how the people operate. So when God sent angels to different places, God is not going to assign black angels to a predominantly Chinese area. It just doesn't work that way. And I realized that these were angels that were being trained by this man called Archbishop Benson Idahosa. I really believe that because of the anointing in his life and the mantle that he carried, that he was training and teaching them how to behave in Nigeria, what to do, you know, just some of the etiquettes. Because the angels, they were sitting there and they were taking notes. They were so attentive to everything, like they were glued to whatever he was saying to them. They were taking notes. And I really do believe that when God assigned angels to different regions of this earth, they have to be trained. They don't know everything. They have to understand their assignment, because they're given assignments, and they have to take on a human body, something that they've never done before. So once they take on a human body, there's some sort of an adjustment that happened. But that was a powerful experience that I remember that dream just like it happened like a few minutes ago. And I can remember the look on Idahosa's face. If you've ever watched anything, you go on YouTube right now, you can Google him, or you can search for him. He was a man with passion, and the same passion that he was in that dream teaching is the same one that when I went back to YouTube and I watched, I'm like, wait a minute, like God gave me the opportunity to meet this man in the dream. And from what I've heard, he was a really mighty, mighty, awesome man of God. So my prayer for you is that God is going to open up your spiritual eyes. God is going to show you things that you've never seen before. And when you begin to see in the realms of the spirit, your life will never be the same.